Hello everyone, welcome to another podcast. Just on the bus here, on the way home. Just thought I'd update you. This was my interview with Stuart Haycock of Max Radio. We chat a bit about Max Radio, so here it is. Episode 30 of the Chatbox podcast. Here we go. Hello everyone, welcome to another Chatterbox podcast. It's episode 31 here today. How are you doing? Right, let's crack on, shall we? As you know, each week I talk to a presenter, a guest about their career or job. So let's crack on with this week's guest. It's broadcaster Stu Haycock. Hello Stu, welcome along.
Hi Ben.
How are you today?
Thanks. Yeah, good. It's nice and sunny outside, so I'm happy.
That's good. 5 questions about radio and broadcasting, if that's okay.
Yeah. Crack on.
You ready to rumble in the jungle?
I'll give it a go.
Okay, let's just go for it, shall we? Question 1. Where did you start your broadcast career?
I started on a little commercial radio station in Ludlow called Sunshine 855 at the time. And I started doing evenings at the weekend whilst at school. I think I was about 14. So I'd go over at the weekend and earn £50 a month to do, which is nothing, to do 6 till 12 on a Saturday and a Sunday. So my dad would drive me down. I'd stay in a house which was based in the centre of Ludlow, which was owned by the managing director at the time, which was a pigsty, a lad. And my dad would pick me up on a Sunday night at midnight and take me back for school the following morning. That's how I started. So that's my first station.
Wow.
Not very glamorous.
What a start to your career.
Yeah. Baptism of fire, that was, Ben, let me tell you.
Question 2. Who were your broadcasting inspirations growing up?
Wow. So many great broadcasters. I think growing up, I've a number of inspirations, really. I'd probably say up there would be Mel Scholes, who is just a fabulous communicator, naturally funny, just an all-round entertainer that just had a sparkle and a bit of magic on air. And you'd listen to him and you would be almost clinging on to every word he said on air. Just a brilliant broadcaster. There was others as well. I'd say Doug Wood, who was at Signal for a number of years. I think a lot of people that I went to school with listen to Signal, but some would listen to Radio 1. So most of mine are local radio presenters that own their patch back in the day. Lee Finan, phenomenal broadcaster again. There were others as well. Too many to mention, to be fair, but there's a couple to get you going. I think the person that probably did inspire me to want to be on the radio was Mel Scholes above everybody, because he just made it sound so easy, but also I think he painted a picture of it being quite glamorous. So I didn't fancy working for a living, and I thought, I wouldn't mind having a go at that. So yeah, it almost seemed rock and roll, and yeah, I just quite fancied that, and I just fell in love, like yourself, really. I guess I just fell in love with radio and just the intimacy of it. Yeah, so I'd say those guys, really. If I was going to pick anybody from out all the years that I've worked in the industry and not in the industry, but growing up, definitely Mel Scholes and Doug and Lee Finan, and probably John Evington as well. Having said that, I'll throw John in there because he gave me my first proper break. But John was the program director at Signal, but I do remember him on air as a presenter, very polished presenter, And again, I always wanted to work at Signal, so that was my. And thing is, when I got into radio, I never really had aspirations of doing anything other than working on Signal. That's all I ever wanted to do. So I guess when I look back now, I think, blimey, I managed that on a couple of occasions. So I kind of achieved what I set out originally to achieve. But there's always people who inspire you, and even now in my latter days, before I left Signal, people like Ray Rose, just inspiring people on air and off air. So yeah.
Nice. Question 3: what is your favourite part about the job?
It sounds a bit corny, a bit cheesy, but I think looking back, probably I go as far as saying the listener. Like every job, and I'm sure with the people that you spoke to, it has ups and it has many downs. There's highs and there's lows, and I always found when you felt like you'd had a bad day or a bad show, and you were kicking yourself about something, you're feeling anxious about something that you'd done on air and it didn't go according to plan, and you beat yourself up about it. Sometimes, and quite often, you'd get a message from a listener. Back in the days, it was phone calls, just phone calls, obviously. And then as technology moved forwards, emails and texts and stuff, and somebody would just text you to say, "Oh, I love your show," or, you're my favourite presenter. It's just little things like that, because what it does is it picks you back up again, because I think even more so now, particularly with the way social media is, it's very easy for people to see something and have a go. Or if they don't like something, they let you know. And we've all had that. But then you get the one listener who, sort of you've engaged or connected with. So when you may have done a story that's about your life, might have been an emotive story, I always took inspiration from that. And I think for me, that's the best part of the job. Knowing that you've actually connected with somebody and engaged with somebody. That's so important in radio. It's the most intimate medium, and I think that's what we're there to do. So yeah, I didn't really care much about all the other stuff.
And playing the music as well.
Yeah, I mean, the music's massive, but you kind of tend to it kind of almost in some ways, because you get programs the way you are, it sort of disappears in the background, if that makes sense. So you end up, because we have rotations now, and some stations that you work on, the very high rotations, you might like a track, but by the end of the week, because you played it 4 or 5 times, you're kind of not as in love with the track as you were when you originally heard it. So music's massive. Yeah, I mean, I think most radio presenters probably do get into radio because they have a love of music and a passion for it. But I think I think that sort of changes a little bit more. So you can still appreciate music, can't you? Obviously, well, you don't get a lot of free choice now, so you didn't when I was doing it.
One of the first ever songs I played, I think it was, I'm not sure, on radio. I think it was my first live show. I'm not sure, it was either Easy Lover by Phil Collins and Phil Bailey, or I think it was Take That or something, Hey Boy or something.
Yeah. Well, Easy Lover's a great track, isn't it? It's a brilliant radio track as well.
It's a track you'll never fall out of love with.
No, to be fair, we played that quite a bit at Signal, and I'm sure many other radio stations are still hammering it to death. And I must be honest, if I'm ever listening to the radio, which is commercial radio very rarely now, I'm not going to lie, but if ever I hear it coming on, I do turn it up, because I think Phil Collins does take a bit of a bashing off people. But I think he's made some great tracks, and I do like Phil Collins. I've seen him live 3 times, so I must like something about him. And that track with Philip Bailey is just a great collaboration. It's brilliant, and it works in so many ways. But it sounds great on the radio. But I do turn it up if ever I hear it. So I never fall out of love with it. Just you don't love it as much, if that makes sense.
I remember when I listened to it on Nation, and it was Neil Fox. And he said when he first heard it, that he used to play the drums along to it.
Yeah. When we all do that, and the guitar.
He said everybody was playing the guitar and the drums at that time, all of his friends.
Yeah. The air drums and air guitar to that track. It's a great little track. So it's just great radio song, isn't it? You know, and that's why it will never not be heard on the radio, because it just sounds great. And, you know, so many stations are still playing it. So many commercial and BBC stations still play it. So yeah, I'll always have a fondness for that track. That's for sure. And
Phil Collins is a brilliant musician.
Oh, he was, yeah. I mean, he sort of can't get around now, can he? Stop drumming because he's sort of he's got arthritis, hasn't he? Crippled with it almost.
I think he's in a wheelchair. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think the last tour he did was it before lockdown, wasn't it? Last year, I think.
Yeah.
His son was playing the drums because his son's a brilliant drummer as well, as you would expect, I suppose. To be hereditary in that sense, but or his dad's got a good teacher, I suppose. But yeah, he was being wheeled onto stage, wasn't he, and singing whilst his son was playing the drums and stuff. So,
but I have seen pictures as well. Sorry, I have seen pictures of as well with him with a walking stick.
Yeah, hobbling about. Yeah, it's sad, really, but then that's all the years of hammering drums, I suppose. Must be catching up on him. And he's a brilliant drummer. Well, he was a phenomenal drummer. I think the old Genesis lot don't particularly like his stuff, but you know, brilliant musician, good songwriter as well, really good songwriter.
In the future, if ever I got a chance to do a television series, I'd love to do a series a bit like James Corden's Carpool Karaoke, but do an interview with them in the car.
Yeah. Well, you need to pitch that to the TV companies. Get on it, Ben, before someone else does.
Yeah, but it's not going to be James Corden's Carpool Karaoke.
No.
Because I'm not really a big fan of James Corden.
Are you not?
I like him. He's a good broadcaster, but he's become a bit Americanized for my taste.
Yeah,
I think that's him living in America.
Yeah, that's the danger, isn't it? He's big over there now, isn't he? I suppose so. Yeah, he's. Yeah, I don't like him. I don't dislike him, if that makes any sense. I just, you know, I don't really see much of him now because obviously he's on in America. Just what gets thrown out on social media when he does something, you know, that carpool karaoke thing. So I don't really pay much attention to what he's doing, but I find him funny, and then sometimes I don't find him funny. But yeah, he's, you know, I just think he's a safe pair of hands. That's how I view him. But he's obviously doing something right because he's earning a mint, isn't he, over in America and doing exceptionally well. So it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Also, I forgot about I think you should sign the Tony Black. Have you signed the Tony Blackburn thing?
Not yet, but I am intending to. Yeah.
Because he needs an award or something, or a plaque or something, just to commemorate his years in broadcasting.
Well, I think we're all a bit surprised he's not been knighted, considering how easy they hand out these knighthoods.
The thing that gets me annoyed is that Tony Blackburn's done more for this country in the last year on radio than the whole government have done in a lifetime, personally.
Yeah, that's true. You can say that about a lot of people as well, Ben, couldn't you? Because yeah, we're not going down that political route, but yeah, I do agree with you. He does need, you know, sort of, I guess, a knighthood or something. He should have been on the Queen's birthday honours list, but yeah, I will sign it.
I think the signature thing is nearly at well over 200 now.
Yeah. Well, it needs to be. What does it need to be at?
I don't know, but it said 200 to get recognised.
Yeah. I'm sure we can push it. I'll certainly sign it.
And share it just so your contacts and your people know as well.
Yeah,
because he deserves something for his radio career and his TV career and his voiceover career and stuff.
Yeah.
Because he's a legend.
Well, yeah, he is. There's not many Tony Blackburns about anymore, is there?
There's only one.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah, and he's brilliant. Question 4. How has COVID affected your life and line of work?
Decimated it. Going back to the first lockdown, I was fortunate enough to be able to go in and do I was doing Drive on Signal 2. So I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. But it also impacted, like so many other people, in so many other different ways. I think I still maintain to this day that I probably, like the other guys, wouldn't have been thrown on the radio scrap heap, if you like, had COVID hit so soon. I think we all anticipated when we got bought by Bauer that we'd be sort of maybe make it to Christmas time. I think there's no question about it. COVID sped everything up, and in quite a traumatic way in some ways, because, you know, the communication was utterly woeful, if we're honest.
How long was it that you had left on air before you found out that things were changing?
4 weeks. We were literally given a month. I think we got phone calls on can't remember what day it was now, to say, that's it. There's a month left. We're changing it all. Your last show's on the 11th of July. Yeah, it was all pretty quick, really, because we'd had a few bits of communication from Bauer to say that everything's okay, thanks for all your help, blah, blah, blah. We're intending not to do anything. We can't wait to meet you all. And then about 2 weeks later, we got phone calls to say you've got a month, and shoved out the door. That's how it happens. I mean, that's the reality of it. It's not, it's not over dramatized. It was horrendous, because you should always plan for the future in radio, because nothing is guaranteed, is it? But I think because we'd had assurances to a certain extent that we'd be okay in some fashion, none of us really thought about it too much. And then all of a sudden it was thrust upon us, and that was our careers over, because it's one thing that happening in a different time. And then you go, well, okay, all right, well, I'll bash some demos out, and, I'll talk to some people, and maybe I might get some cover work somewhere, or, I might get a gig elsewhere. Might take me a couple of months, but the reality was they were finishing people's careers. They weren't sort of putting you out of work. They were putting you out of a career, because they were networking the lot. They'd already decided what they were wanting to do with it, unbeknownst to us, really. And it was horrible. I mean, I can say that because I'll never work for Bauer again. They'll never give me an opportunity to work for them. I was never given an opportunity before, and neither were any of the other guys. And, the industry shrunk that much. Does it really matter now what you say? Well, probably not, to be fair. Do people care? No, if we're honest, because life goes on. I'm a bitter about it. God, yeah, a little bit, because they finished my career prematurely. I anticipated finishing my career at Signal, not in that fashion. I'd been moved on to AM, only 43. I thought I'd get, 6 or 7 years out of this and then do something else. But to be thrust into that situation was horrific, because mentally it ruined a lot of people. I had, like I'm sure many others, and I know some of them did, because I was talking to them and we were chatting. You felt like a failure. You felt like your life was over almost, because it was what we all loved doing radio. It was and Signal as well. And I can't talk for the other guys at the other stations, but Signal was such a heritage station, like so many others that have disappeared, and it was loved by the audience. So that resonated with you. But what sticks a little bit is the manner in which it was done. It could have been handled a hell of a lot better, regardless of what they say, because people's mental health was on the floor. I've still not fully recovered, and neither has some of the guys that I've spoken to. We're mentally broken, and not having any help, being thrown on the scrap heap. We had no help whatsoever, no communication. It was just like, thanks a lot, bye, you're off. That decimated my life, and I'm sure I know it decimated other people's lives. You're out of work. It was like, and we're in a pandemic. It's like, well, how would you get work? Because there were no jobs. You couldn't go off delivery driving to cover the bills. You were literally just thrown on the scrap heap and not thought about. It was like, it didn't matter. But what hurts more than anything is the fact that, and I think probably Ray said, 3 of us were in every day, and I can only speak for the guys that I work with at Signal. We were still going in during the pandemic and providing a service, and the uplift in people contacting the radio station, listeners engaging with things, was incredible, because people were stuck at home. The only thing they had was the radio ultimately, and it was a fabulous medium for them. So we worked our arses off for months for nothing, because we it mattered not to them. It was like, well, we don't care. See you later. Thanks for all your hard work. But we didn't even get that.
Who was the first person you spoke to after the announcement? Which of your colleagues was the first colleague you spoke to after your announcement, after the Bauer announcement, sorry?
It was a presenter at Signal, and yeah, I think she texted me and I texted her, or she rang me, I can't remember now, and we were chatting on the phone. Sorry. And we were chatting on the phone, and she, I think we were just a bit shocked. We were expecting something, but a presenter called Max Mallon, and I think I spoke to Ray Rose.
How was he about it all?
A bit like me, really. I don't think Ray's very sort of laid back, and he's no fool. I think he knew it was coming. He probably was wise to it to a certain extent. I don't think he was prepared for it when it happened, like the rest of us, but just disappointed, really. I think we were more shocked in the manner in which things happened. It wasn't, if they'd have sat us down, or there were different ways they could have done it. If they'd have collectively spent some time with us, whether that was on Zoom or whatever, because we're in a pandemic. The presenters were the last. We were the last to be thought of. We meant nothing really to them. But if they'd have spent that time helping us throughout that last 4 weeks and talking to us and checking in with us, this is the thing. These companies, thing is, Ben, most of these media organisations bang on about how mental health, and they talk about, and you see them promoting mental health, and we're big on this, we're big on that. But when you treat people like that, that to me is ignorant. It's it's hypocritical, because we had no support. So I think we were all just disappointed in the manner in which it was done, really, a bit shocked. So, yeah, but it is what it is. It's happened now, 12 months on, here we are. Am I over it? No. Have I recovered? Probably not. Do I miss it? Absolutely.
And how was your new station compared to Signal, say, for example? How's that coming on compared to Signal 12 months on?
Well, I never anticipated doing Max. I never really wanted to do it, if I'm honest. We just did an online thing, and it was just going to be a play around thing. And then I was convinced by a couple of mates to do it. And I kind of tentatively agreed after a few weeks of them gently persuading me. 5 weeks in, I'm kind of like, oh, what have I done? Because it is hard work. I'll be honest with you, we've had a lot of issues. We're not a Barrow or a Global. It's flipping hard out there. That's from a sales point of view, technical. We've had some awful issues in the first month, technically, which has disabled the station a little bit. We're fighting for our lives at the minute. Will we come through it? Who knows? I'm a bit pragmatic about things now. What will be. I've been doing 16, 17, 8-hour days as well as a radio show. We're small fry. But it's a great, the Max thing's a great brand. It's a great product. We've carefully crafted it to do something specific for a particular demographic, which was missing from the marketplace. We carefully considered everything that we've done, but you can't sort of foresee some of the issues you're going to have along the way, which has been technical, which has messed us up a little bit. Is the future bright with it? I don't know. I'll be honest. I'll just keep going. Just keep fighting through. A good core of people with us who get it, understand it, support what we're trying to do, and see the bigger picture, which is all you can ask for, really. So, yeah, times are hard, Ben. Times are very hard with everything, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, sorry, I was just a bit quiet. I was just reading a thing about the COVID vaccine.
No, that's all right.
Because they're calling my age group up for the jab.
Yeah.
Have you had yours yet?
I've had jab number 1. I was due to have jab number 2 today, but I've got to have it next Thursday now because of isolation. What
did you get?
AstraZeneca.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of things,
Yeah, I was all right. I had a couple of days where I was not very well with it, but it's done now, isn't it? But so I'm not quite sure what to expect with the second one, but better to be safe than sorry, I suppose, isn't it?
For your station, you should get realxe to do a show for you.
Do you know, between you and I, and whoever else is listening, I have spoke to Ray about a few bits and bobs. One of the things we wanted to do in Max was a spin-off, an alternative station, which aligned with what we were doing, which is old school dance, essentially. And we'd still have an idea for that. But that's on hold at the moment for a few weeks, whilst we battle our way through the immediate issues. But yeah, I get on really well. Ray's been one of my closest friends, and Ray's helped me greatly because during the last pandemic, or the last pandemic, I mean, the pandemic, the last lockdown, that's the one. I was going to say, did we have another pandemic? I've slept through that one as well. Ray helped me greatly. I lost my mum sort of last January. She had dementia, so I was caring for mum for 3 years going on, and then she sadly passed in the January. So I had all that as well as don't get me wrong, there are lots of people in the same situation, but Ray was great. He's been such a good friend to me. So I love Ray to bits.
I don't know if I think he's doing, I'm not sure if he's doing any radio work at present.
Yeah, I think he's doing, I did spot something on social media. I think he's doing retro sound, is it, or something in the evenings.
Yeah, you should get him on your station as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately going to be the plan with what we have, the idea of what we have planned, we can get moving with stuff. So, definitely I'd always find a place for Ray. Absolutely, 100%. I think I said to you before, Ray for me is arguably, and I say this quite comfortably as well, is one of the best broadcasters in the UK without a doubt. He connects, he engages, he knows his stuff. He can be funny. He's just naturally gifted at radio, and he's such a brilliant communicator. How he's not, if we look back to like the Bauer changes and stuff, how Ray's not been given a place on the Bauer network is ridiculous. He's such an asset, and he pulls in an audience, and that's the key, isn't it? With this job, if you've got good radio.
I think Bauer go for the younger generation.
Yeah, but it's certainly a place for him on greatest hits, without a shadow of a doubt. You look at the people that that's no disrespect to any of the people they've got on there, but I'm talking about the ex-Radio 1 and Radio 2 jocks and all that sort of stuff.
Matt, yeah. Good. I can't remember his name. Goodyear, whatever.
Yeah. All great broadcasters. Legends.
Simon Mayer.
Yeah.
Alex Leinster.
Yeah, but there's a place for Ray. There should have been a place for Ray, or at least, if not with the Bauer network, with another big network, because he's a great broadcaster. He really is. He's wasted not being on air, and how he's not sort of in a gig or somebody's come in and said, look, come and work for us, is beyond me, because he's a standout presenter, and I really, truly believe that. And I'm not just saying that because I know him. I say that because I know what listeners say about him. I know I've seen that traction with him. I've seen how he works. I was fortunate enough to watch him at work, and he's a natural. He's absolutely, he's just naturally gifted at it. And people like him on air. He's got that likability, which is essential, isn't it?
And yeah, I think he'll end up at your radio station eventually.
Well, that'll be down to Ray, but that it depends where we'll be at. But
would you like to have him on board?
God, yeah. Who wouldn't? He's
get him to get him to do like an 80s, because he did something similar at Signal, I think.
I'll be honest with you. Having worked with Ray as I did, he's not too keen on the 80s. I'll work that one out. Ray knows, the stuff that he listens to and the stuff that he plays are quite, although he did get away with playing some of the stuff that he also listens to personally himself, and some of the tracks, it's just phenomenal tracks. If you leave Ray to do his, do what he does best, that's when he excels. And
if you left phenomenal. Him in like a record room at a radio station, he'd go through all the records. Sorry, someone's at the door. 1 second.
That's all right.
Yeah, I'll just pause. We're up to the bit about Ray Rose. Sorry. Yeah, about him. Yeah, he's brilliant broadcaster, as I say, and a legend.
Yeah. I get along with that.
And finally, question 5, what advice would you give to young aspiring broadcasters who are starting out?
Don't do it. Funnily enough, my 17-year-old lad, well, he's 17 now, but he wanted to do radio about 12 months ago, and I had a big, long conversation with him. I think the difficulty at the moment is there isn't as many opportunities. Having said that, if you're of the age of, 16, 17, 18, there is the opportunity, I believe, to make a go of it and try and get on one of the big networks like your Bowers or your Globals, whether that be the Hits or Capital or whoever it may be. So I think if you're younger, there are opportunities there further down the line. I think to get a grounding, absolutely, and everybody else will probably tell you the same. The good thing about the makeup of the industry at the moment is, I would say there are also, it's a funny thing really, because there isn't in commercial radio, but in other aspects of the industry, there are opportunities. So there are opportunities to do things, admittedly as a volunteer, and do things for nothing for a bit, but, community radio, I think hospital radio, obviously, is still thriving. Community radio is doing exceptionally well in some areas. So there are opportunities to get on air if you can with a community station. And what that will allow you to do over a period of time is sort of craft your art. And, you know, I mean, there are some community stations do have restrictions as to what you can and can't do in keeping with their guidelines and what they want to achieve as a radio station, I guess. But you can learn an awful lot about yourself in those early first few years, which will give you a good grounding going forward. So community radio, but there's also internet stations as well. They're popping up all the time. Get involved in somewhere like that. And also with the rollout of small scale DAB, there's going to be plenty of new voices heard on the radio over the next couple of years, now more so than ever because of all these stations popping up. So I think in terms of opportunities for older people like myself or more mature presenters, there isn't that many, unless, you know, you do what we're trying to do with Max, or, you know, I've seen lots of other radio stations like TX1 and whatnot. And In Demand is doing exceptionally well in Liverpool. So there are those opportunities. But for the younger generation, there are probably far more chances now than there were when I was you know, sort of setting out, because we didn't have community stations. It was hospital radio, and then work by answering the phones or something, which is how I got into it, really. But there's no need for that now, is there, I guess? But I'd say just be focused. Just don't get downhearted. It's very easy to feel frustrated, particularly when you're sending people things and you're either, one, getting no response, or two, rejections. Just keep going at it. Be persistent. One thing that's always struck me as being ironic about the industry, and this, you know, you can go all the way back with this, is communication. You know, considering we're in the business of communication at times, Ben, it's the worst communicators in the world, because they just don't communicate. You can send somebody something. We're all guilty of it. And I know people are busy, but it doesn't happen in any other industry. I can assure you of that. You know, it's very difficult. So I can understand if you were starting out and you were sending somebody something to try, and whether that be a demo or, you know, an email, you don't get a response. I can understand that frustration. You just got to be persistent. When I say persistent, there's a line, isn't there? And it's just getting that fine line whereby you're not becoming an irritant to them, where you might have sent them 6 emails or whatever in a day, because that can happen. There are some funny people in the industry. So, yeah, I'll just be persistent. That's all I can really say on that, because I think it's significantly different than when I started out. And you will get there if you've got the raw talent, I think, you know, and understand what it is radio stations are trying to get. So, yeah.
And some radio presenters can sometimes put the phone down on you or something.
Hey, Ben, there's some bloody ignorant presenters. There's some bloody ignorant people in the industry. There's some terrible communicators in the industry. In fact, I can think of, without naming any names, I can think of a dozen already who, it's not that they're nice people, not, you know, I'm not saying that. It's just they're awful communicators. And you think, how are you even in an industry that's like about communicating? It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't.
Yeah, they seem all nicey on air, but when they get off air, they have a totally different persona.
Yeah, arseholes. Some of them. But there's some lovely people as well. You know, it's like anything, isn't it? There's a lot of egos. It's an industry that attracts egos. Again, I get that.
Yeah, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us, Stu. Join me.
It's been great.
again soon for another Chatterbox podcast. But for now, please give it up for Stu Haycock. Thank you very much for listening and watching. And that's a wrap. That was episode 30 of the Chatbox podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it filled the gap in your time. Don't forget, I've got more coming up later. So, yeah, more talk to you soon. BL out, and that's a wrap. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And I'll talk to you soon. And that's a wrap. BL out.